In a pretty creative cyber attack, hackers breached an ISP, then leveraged their access to infect the ISP's actual customers. Also in your hacking news roundup, new leaks reveal a secret FBI surveillance dashboard, and 2 alleged admins of an infamous Russian hacking forum have been found living in the US. But first, here's a reason not to use your ISP's default DNS servers. We're not being told which ISP was hacked or even how they were hacked. All we know is that their DNS infrastructure was somehow compromised. But after hacking the ISP, the cybercriminals took advantage of the fact that some consumer-level software that many of us use implements insecure update mechanisms. One example being 5K Player. It's some kind of all-in-one media player for Windows and macOS, and one of its features is that it can download YouTube videos. For this functionality to work, it implements YouTube DL, and in order to check for YouTube DL updates, every so often 5K Player will check a certain URL, and if an update is available, it'll download it from a predefined upgrade link. Problem is though, you might have noticed that this is all done using HTTP, so you don't get the benefit of HTTPS that you can be sure you're talking to the legit server, that this is the real YouTube.com, you can go and check the certificates and get your cryptographic proof. Not using HTTPS is a problem, because as we've established, bad guys have hacked the ISP. So, as the researchers explain, when victim computers sent DNS requests to get the IP address corresponding to the domain, the hackers were able to intercept those DNS requests and respond with a malicious IP address, which meant that when computers downloaded those updates, they were unknowingly downloading them from the attacker's malicious update server instead. If HTTPS was being used, this just wouldn't have been possible, because after connecting to the malicious update server, your computer would have realized the certificates don't match up and just would have called the whole thing off. But this wasn't the case, and end users served a malicious update package which infected them with malware known as MGBot, which the researchers observed installing malicious Chrome extensions to hoover up user data. And just like most software, 5K Player's updates all happen in the background, so you'd have no idea that you were being hacked, in this case by a Chinese cybercriminal group known by the names Storm, Bamboo and Evasive Panda. And whilst I am picking on the poor security of 5K Player here, this is just one example. Researchers made it clear that the threat actor has modified installation workflows for a range of applications whose update mechanisms are vulnerable to this kind of attack. It is a bit depressing how you can have almost perfect cyber hygiene, but you end up getting hacked just because you used some media player which in of itself wasn't even malicious. The obvious solution here is twofold. Change your DNS servers so you aren't using your ISP's default ones, and use DNS over HTTPS to make sure your DNS queries are encrypted. Next up, thanks to some new leaks, we have a glimpse into the surveillance dashboard behind the FBI's world-famous honeypot ANOM. It's been 3 years since Operation Trojan Shield, so to refresh your memory, ANOM was the FBI's solution to the fact that drug traffickers, like the rest of us, quite like end-to-end encrypted messaging apps, which of course makes it impossible for the feds to see what they're up to. So the FBI came up with this crazy idea. They bought a bunch of Pixel 4a's and loaded them with a fork of Graphene OS, which they called Arcane. Arcane OS came with a proprietary messaging app, which was of course backdoored, so each time you sent a message using your ANOM phone, a copy would be sent straight to FBI servers, giving the feds complete insight into your every move. ANOM devices were sold as being a kind of stripped-down privacy phone, perfect for criminals. Undercover agents then tricked high-level criminals, like the billionaire drug trafficker Hakan Ayik, into incorporating ANOM phones into his drug trafficking enterprise, and then the devices kind of spread organically throughout criminal networks. Whilst ANOM did have a website, you couldn't just rock up and buy one of these things, you needed an invite code. You had to be referred by someone already using the service, and at its height, over 9,000 ANOM devices were in use. And we now know all those devices were spied on using a dashboard called Ola iBot, screenshots of which were obtained by 404 Media. I'll link their article below. The UI was about as clunky as you might expect from a government-developed spyware tool, though maybe not quite as bad as other leaked screenshots of spyware tools like NSO's Pegasus. Once the law enforcement agents had logged into the portal, they could view all the conversations linked to their cases and get real-time translations. There was also a tool to map out criminal networks. The red circle is the criminal being tracked, and the blue circles are the other ANOM users they're communicating with the green circle being their group chat. These things were sold as having their GPS capabilities disabled for privacy reasons, but that was a total lie, because quite clearly the physical location that each message was sent from was added to the FBI's database. And the voice distortion feature baked into voice memos was also total BS, with the feds being able to reverse this in their dashboard. The ANOM platform was part of Operation Trojan Shield, which saw hundreds of people arrested when the feds shut down the honeypot in 2021. Whether this was all legal is still up for debate in some countries, but that could take years for the courts to figure out. If you want to learn more about ANOM, I've just started reading a book on it that I'll link for you down below. I can't really say much about it because I'm quite literally on page 3, but it's written by the same guy who uncovered these screenshots, and it's meant to be pretty good, so if ANOM interests you, go check it out. The FBI has just arrested 2 people suspected of being admins on WWH Club. The feds describe this website as like a cross between eBay and Reddit, but for crime, and that's pretty accurate. Here, wannabe cybercriminals can find guides on credit card fraud, they can trade in stolen identities, and get help on their latest coding projects. WWH Club is strictly Russian speaking, so I am kind of relying on Google Translate here, but the website is open for anyone, no invitation needed. WWH is considered more of an entry-level cybercrime forum, but it is very well established. Having been around since 2012, it has over 350,000 members. The 2 alleged admins, now in US custody, are Russian national Pavel Kablitsky and Kazakhstani Alexander Koryrev. These guys haven't been hiding away in Russia like most sensible cybercriminals. Instead, they entered the US in 2022 and for some unknown reason claimed asylum, which was actually granted. Soon after arriving in the US, Pavel opened an American bank account and deposited $50,000 in cash before renting a luxury condo in Florida, all while spending his time living like some kind of rich tourist, documenting his escapades on social media. And Alexander was documented buying a 2023 Corvette with $110,000 in cash. What these guys didn't seem to realise is that being unemployed asylum seekers and living a lavish lifestyle don't generally go together and is bound to attract the attention of US law enforcement. To make matters worse for these guys, this coincided with an FBI investigation that began in 2020 when the feds traced WWH as being hosted on DigitalOcean. With the help of a search warrant, they grabbed the site's database and identified 70 email addresses linked in one way or another to WWH staff members. And after obtaining search warrants for those addresses, they found that one of those emails was used personally by Pavel and contained all of his holiday photos. This email is allegedly linked to the website's chief moderator account, McKean. Also linked to this account was a certain Bitcoin wallet that was being used to receive payments from other WWH users in DMs which the feds now have access to thanks to that database. Using blockchain analysis, the feds linked that wallet to a cluster of 61 other addresses, one of which was used to send some coins to a Binance account that was registered to Alexander, which is how they managed to link him to all this. So it seems both of these guys use the same WWH account. However, their arrests don't seem to have affected the website in any way, and WWH lives on. The head admin has acknowledged the arrests and has actually started collecting donations for the 2 guys' families, which currently stands at $2,500, excluding whatever's been received in Monero. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.